So it's interesting how you plant a seed about what you want to talk about, and you just let that seed settle within you, and things just show up. They just show up and give you what you want to talk about. And so one of the things that happened for me is, if you're a user of Facebook and you've got friends, you realize that you're always cued in on when people have birthdays, right? And so you get the opportunity to make a decision to respond or to not respond. Well, I've got some friends on Facebook that are from college, and I haven't talked to these friends in years and years and years and years and years. And one of them's birthday was yesterday, and so I wrote my salutation to them, wishing them best, and that type of thing. And the person wrote back and put a photograph of us. And it's clearer when you're looking at Facebook, but the photograph is the three of us there. The blue and the red, that's Ted. The blue and the yellow, that's Jeff. And obviously the one with the curly hair, that's me. And we used to do an annual trip. This is like in the, I'm going to guess this is like in the middle, latter 70s. There was the Asabo River in Michigan, and we would go on this trip. And we would there were women with us. Jean was with me, and Jeff's wife, and Ted's wife was with him. And the thing about it is this trip was a 5-hour trip if you just floated. But for us, the trip took almost 2 full days. And what was so crazy, why I'm bringing this story up about this is because if you look at the side, it says the biggest predictor of human happiness is the quality of a person's relationships. So I remember at the time that this was happening, that the relationships that I had with Jeff and with Ted were thoroughly based on unconditional acceptance. I mean, we were as goofy, as individual, as obnoxious, as anything you can imagine, and we were thoroughly accepting of each other. The only thing that ever came into conflict with our relationship were the women in our lives. Because here's the key thing. The relationships that we had with each other were relationships deep in a connection that we met when we were 19 years of age, and we built off of that growing up together. The women that entered into our lives weren't based on that. They weren't, centered in the same connection. But eventually, all of us got along well. But during the course, there were other women in our lives besides our wives, and we were with them, and it would cause all these things. But those became the stories. Do you remember the stories when you were growing up? You can probably go back and recall those stories, and if you do so, you should do them with great joy. Really great joy, because those stories help make you the person you are now. No matter if it was a guy who treated you like this or a woman that treated you like that, whatever it was, it doesn't matter, because it forced you to evaluate, do I choose to be authentic, or do I choose to sacrifice my values for another? So the theme that I want to talk about today is this. The only reasonable expectation we can ever have of others is that they will respond, they will behave according to their highest values. It's never going to be based on what one person wants and the other doesn't. It's always going to be, I will always do everything that supports my highest values. I may sacrifice and I may give in for a while for someone else, but eventually I'm coming back to my highest values. There's no getting around it. You cannot change that. That's the essence of what you are. And when it's the essence of what you are, you're going to be that. So one of the things that's really high back in that time was my personal freedom. My personal freedom, the freedom to be Lee, the freedom to express, the freedom to be spontaneous, the freedom to do adventure things, that was critical to me. And when anyone came into my life and I would sacrifice that for the purpose of pleasing that individual, I became totally an unhappy person. You cannot sacrifice. And what would happen? The second that person would not be around, where would I revert to? My highest values, right? I'd be behaving according to that. Then what would happen? The stories about me living to my values would come back, and then I'd have to face the consequences. And that's where you get into the whole idea of apologizing. People at Agape understand I don't believe in apologizing. I think apologizing is poppycock. That's about as good as I can say with this message going around the world. Why would I ever apologize if I'm being authentic? If I offend someone and I'm being authentic, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's their button being pushed. They have a desire that someone can possibly hurt them. It's impossible for me to hurt anyone. The only person that can hurt someone else is that person's belief about what is being said. Again, it's going back to they're responding according to their values. But if their values are not my values, I can't be responsible for how they take it. Because what we've got is a society that says we've got to apologize for everything. We are taking away our ability to be unique and individuals. And you see the whole idea of this idea of love, and you see to have a relationship, any relationship, it has to start first with a relationship within you. It has to start first with a relationship that you fall in love with yourself. In order to fall in love with yourself, you have to first ask the question, who am I? Who am I? And here at Agape, we explore that idea. We explore the idea that we are an individualization of infinite mind. And as an individualization of infinite mind, call it God, call it whatever you want, that we have all the qualities of the infinite right where we are, but yet we're unique. And so because of that uniqueness, we're able to then say, what is in my heart? What is in my beingness that desires to express and be a different way? Okay? And then you have to determine what is that. I believe we determine that based on our values. And so if we don't know our values, we're living a lost life. Absolutely, thoroughly, we're lost. We have no idea of living. We're going to find every addiction in the world to live by. We're going to try to hide behind any possible way we can hide, because until we understand and live authentically, we will never be fulfilled. What we're always saying to the world, when we're not living to our values, we're living to someone else's, we're always saying, I am not enough. We're always saying, I'm not worthy. Is that the way we want to go around living? I think not. So it was really interesting. We were having a conversation. We were out to dinner with a couple close friends last night, and we were having this conversation, but then how do relationships work? And I was explaining to them, once both parties have determined what their values are, then you link them. You find out how those parties support each other. How does my values support my wife's values? How do I support her values? And we link them with such a connection that whenever anything happens with either of us, the first question you ask is, how does that fit in with my values? Does it support my values? If it doesn't support my values, then don't do it. You see, that's real easy. You don't have to make a decision on what's right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. It's what supports my values. And when you've anchored that your values are the most important thing, then you never have to question the decision. You simply just respond. You are living, at that point, how are you living? Consciously. See, we always come back to what is conscious living. Conscious living is not just being present in the moment. It's about knowing who you are as you're being present and knowing who you're with while you're being present and being authentic, allowing them to be authentic, forming a relationship that causes you to be in a place of connection, a place of peace, a place of beauty. The key thing is, it doesn't matter who you're with. You could be with anyone, with strangers, and people will know immediately if you're being authentic. Can you not tell that? If you've been around people and you meet someone, you go, oh, that person's a phony. That person has other intentions. That person's they want something they're not saying. You can feel the energy. You cannot hide it. No matter what you try to do, mask your words or whatever you do, those words come out of you. They have an energy to it. And people know when you're authentic. When I was young, I was quite outrageous. And a lot of the things I did would probably have offended a lot of people. But the people I did them with were never, ever offended because they understood that my energy was pure. I was not doing it to hurt someone. That's the real critical thing. People will ask, why are they able to get away with that? And why can't I get away with that? And the answer is real simple. They're being authentic. There was no harm. It was just being. This person has an ulterior motive. And that's really something to take in mind. Everyone seems to not know how to be authentic today. When we get into this idea of love, people don't know how to express love. They don't know how to be authentic anymore. And so they struggle and they're looking, what's the magic formula for being in love? Well, if I do this. No, the magic formula is be you. And accept you. And know where you're going. And then act from your values toward that. That's it. There's nothing more you have to do in the world. You don't have to do anything great to have a loving life. Having a loving life is being great. You see that, how that reversed? You're not going to be more love because you create something fantastic for the world. But if you're in the world and you're loving, everything around you becomes great. Everything around you becomes lifted up. Everything around you becomes an expression of the divine, seen through the eyes of the divine, experienced by the divine. You see, you are that. And when you're tapped into being you, you start to see life through the divine's eyes, and you see that everything happening around you is perfect. Here's the thing, we've got tradition. You know, is there things like tradition? You know what that is. It's all over the place. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. Here's what I'm going to say about tradition. Ask for what you want when you want it. If you want a job, ask for a job. If you want to date with someone, ask them for a date. If you want to go to a movie or do something special, you ask them to do it. There's no right way to do things. What is in your heart that is desiring to come out and be expressed, that wants to hear, see, sense, and know and feel life? If you want a special thing from your doctor, tell them. I was in with a chiropractor this week, and the chiropractor had a routine. And as I was listening to the routine, I said, well, wait a second. You know, I was in meditation this week, and I saw the order of what you're doing as being different. And so I went to the chiropractor and I said, okay, listen, this is what you do. I really want this machine here. I want this machine here. And then I want the adjustment here. How do you feel about doing it that way? They said, I never thought about it, but that makes sense. So the chiropractor immediately responded, and I got a better result. You see, there's an infinite wisdom within us that is always speaking to us, and when we listen to it, we can then put that out. Just because someone has a title doesn't mean they know what's right for you. Only you know what's right for you. You are infinite intelligence within, and that infinite intelligence is always there. And when you ask it that question, it guides and directs you in every moment. One of the key things about asking that question is simply this. Ask that question right before you go to sleep. Because right before you go to sleep, your conscious mind is quiet, it's relaxed, it's tired. Remember, the conscious mind is the gatekeeper to the subconscious. The conscious mind filters what's being put in. When the conscious mind is able to be quieted and you make the decision, here's the question I seek to have answered. It's now planted in the subconscious mind where all wisdom resides, and that will process, and you will receive that answer. It may not be that night, it may not be that morning, it may be the next day, but you will receive the answer. I tend to now, what happened this week, I asked it twice this week. I asked for 2 clarities. At 1 o'clock in the morning and at 2:30 in the morning. Boom. And I'm in the midst of a dream, and there's my answer. Subconscious mind gives it when you pay attention. You see, this is what conscious living is about. This is about self-love. Self-love is really about listening to yourself. It's about asking questions from within yourself. It's about getting to know yourself. It's about being yourself. It's about being authentic in the world and realizing whatever you are is more than enough. There's nothing you have to become to experience more. You just have to create an awareness that this exists within you. As I looked at that picture earlier, I could not stop smiling because I reflected and saw how casual and easy it was to be young, to be with people who accepted you, to be free, to be goofy, to not have anything serious to talk about. You saw us in there, we were smoking Crook's rum-soaked cigars. Now, Crook's rum-soaked cigars are probably the most putrid thing in the world. But what we smoked prior to the cigars allowed us to smoke the cigars. You see, that's why the trip took 2.5 days. We were going into the euphoric state of oneness at that moment. And yet you can do that without any stimulant whatsoever. You can do that simply just by being you. See, if you sit down and you just be yourself, accept yourself as you are, you will find an inner peace, a sense of joy, a sense of peace just start to radiate through yourselves. Here's the thing, and that when that peace and that radiates in your cells, you feel that connection, all disease, all worry will cease as long as that state is maintained. See, the healing force within us is the connection that there's nothing wrong with us to begin with, that everything is fine within us, that we're an expression of something greater. So I invite you this week, as you explore your life, whether it be with your partner, with your children, with your parents, with your grandparents, with the people with work, or the people that are your friends, be yourself. Don't look for their response, observe their response, but be yourself. And in that beingness, ask the question, how does it feel to be me? Because if you ask that question, you'll start to rediscover the joy that has been seeking to be experienced through you all of your life. Let's pray.